Welcome everyone to another video of answer writing program where we'll be discussing 3 questions, 2 from static of GS3 internal security, linkages between development and spread of extremism, and 1 question on current affair. Let us see the questions. The first question is about development, although an essential prerequisite, but it alone may not be sufficient to deal with the problem of left-wing extremism. We have understood that there is a problem of left-wing extremism in India, and one of the factor which correlates with the increase and decrease of extremism is development. So we will talk about the same in the first part. Second part is also about the same, but we will be talking in an expanded way, linkages between development and spread of extremism, and specifically we will be talking about schedule areas. The third is current affair based question. Over here we will be talking about India's recent space related activities about Gaganyaan mission. We saw that crew escape vehicle was tested recently, and in that light we will be talking about the significance and challenges involved in Gaganyaan mission. Let us see the first question. Development, although an essential prerequisite, it alone may not be sufficient to deal with the problem of left-wing extremism in India. Analyze. So over here we are going to first break the question. We will talk about how development is an essential prerequisite. However, there are other factors that also need to be taken care to ensure we deal with the problem of left-wing extremism in a holistic way. In the introduction, you can briefly talk about left-wing extremism, its origin in India. You can talk about how the inception of left-wing extremism came in existence from March 1967 region called Naxalbari in West Bengal. What exactly is the nature of the left-wing extremism? It's an armed insurgency against the state and motivated by leftist ideology. So these are the things that you can inculcate in your introduction. Let's see the next part. Over here you have the opportunity within the introduction or in the body you can give a mind map delineating the factors contributing to left-wing extremism. You can create a mind map over here about factors contributing to left-wing extremism, and you can list down the points over here like socio-economic factors, land and resource dispute, historical injustice, and governance and development related deficits. So this is something you don't need to expand. You can just create mind map and move to the main body demand, which is development, an essential precondition or prerequisite. Firstly, you can talk about how road connectivity is very much necessary. Government has initiated major projects such as road requirement plan, road connectivity programs, through which they have constructed more than 16,000 kilometers of road. So more than 16,000 kilometers of road have been constructed by government to ensure there is proper road connectivity, thus enabling development and eliminating the issue of left-wing extremism. Apart from that, there is also network connectivity. Thousands of mobile towers are installed to ensure there is proper connectivity in the region. There's financial inclusion. We have witnessed the rise of business correspondent. Apart from that, major banks as well as government initiatives of post office like through banking and all, they've also been inculcated in the element of financial inclusion. Then we have skill development scheme. More than 400 crore have been invested to ensure upskilling of the underdeveloped region is ensured, thus augmenting the employment avenues as well as economic avenues of the region. And the last is focus on education. Now education also is a very strong pillar of development. We have witnessed models like Eklavya school models to ensure holistic development of the children of underdeveloped regions of where left-wing extremism is on rise. So this is something, the part of development pillar. But we have understood that development alone is not sufficient to eliminate the problem of left-wing extremism. We have to tackle development as well as other aspects to tackle the left-wing extremism in a holistic way. Firstly, we need to ensure good governance. When we talk about good governance, we are talking about transparent and accountable system where people, the local people, can come actively and engage with the government and become active stakeholder in the entire governance mechanism. The next is poverty alleviation. Now, poverty alleviation is something which is a product of relative deprivation. We have witnessed that all the regions where we have left-wing extremism, they have witnessed underdevelopment, and because of that underdevelopment, they are also facing issues such as poverty, hunger. Thus, poverty alleviation program can also be part of solution to tackle the left-wing extremism in a holistic way. And the third is counter-terrorism operation. As we have understood, it's an armed rebellion. So you must have to understand that certain degree of a counter-terrorism operation is also necessary to ensure further radicalization is not done. We have seen various models, like in Andhra Pradesh, we have seen how Greyhound kind of counter-terrorist operations have been conducted to ensure there is peace and stability. In the conclusion, you have the opportunity to talk about the second ARC reform, specifically about capacity building for conflict resolution. In this, we have specific chapter dedicated to left-wing extremism. You can talk about all those other recommendations as well in the conclusion and conclude your answer in a very holistic way. You can also talk about different state models, how Andhra Pradesh model, where they inculcated counter-terrorist operations along with development projects to ensure there is holistic development of the region to counter the left-wing extremism. So that is something you can write for your answer 1. Let us see the model answer and understand how can we inculcate all those points in answer writing. Firstly, you talk about the left-wing extremism, its origin. You can also talk about the nature of extremism. Then in the factors contributing to left-wing extremism, you can create a mind map as we discussed. Then in the first body, an essential precondition, you can give the relevant points along with proper justification as in examples. In the next part, we will talk about how apart from development, we also need to tackle different kind of other elements, pillars to ensure complete elimination of left-wing extremism like good governance, poverty alleviation and counter-terrorism. Over here, you can definitely substantiate your keywords with argument and examples. And in the end, you can talk about different other way forwards. We can also talk about the second RC report. At the same time, you can also talk about how there are different ways through which we can go ahead. So that is there for question number 1. Let's see question number 2. Question number 2. Explain the linkages between development and spread of extremism using examples from India. Outline the corrective strategies which government should take to reduce extremism in scheduled area. Now we have understood that in India, the issue of development along with spread of extremism is highly correlated. And same, you can start with the introduction by talking about how underdevelopment creates extremism. You can talk about how underdevelopment leads to relative deprivation. That leads to certain sense of conflict. As in that they might be excluded from development process, and that leads to extremism. You can create certain kind of flowcharts as well after briefly talking about the linkages of development and spread of extremism. You can also talk about how there are certain scheduled areas which are victim of extremism. Like we have northeast area, we have left-wing extreme area. So you can also talk about those parts as well. In the body, we will talk about the first demand, which is factors related to development, which is responsible for growth of extremism. Over here, we are talking about the linkages. The very first is social factor. Over here, you can talk about historical discrimination. Over here, you can talk about how certain regions which are underdeveloped, they have faced social discrimination. Most of the region where we are talking about underdeveloped scheduled areas, they are tribal areas, they have population from scheduled caste, also other lower caste. So we have witnessed social discrimination, and those social factor leads to growth of extremism. We have also witnessed that how due to certain social factors, there is also deprivation of economic development. We have witnessed certain social infrastructure which are part and parcel of economic development like school, healthcare, etc., jobs, etc. So those aspects have also been not abundant in such regions, and because of that, we have witnessed growth of extremism. The third is administrative factors. We have witnessed how bureaucratic hurdles, how certain administrative structures have limited the democratic setup of India. Because of certain centralization tendency, the local regions have not been able to fully realize their aspirations. So that is something you can talk about in the administrative factors. In governance factor, you can talk about how there are certain services which are not realized by the population of scheduled area, where we have witnessed higher degree of extremism. You can talk about how there is element of exclusion, which is leading to further expansion and spread of extremism. Now, these are the factors which are responsible. You can talk about the measures, which is the second demand that can be taken to reduce the extremism in scheduled areas. So we have witnessed the map of scheduled area. Now let's see what are the effective solutions. Firstly, talking about proactive legislations that we have already implemented must be translated into something concrete. We have Forest Right Act, we have PISA Act, and we have multiple other acts like land acquisition and etc., which are there to safeguard the rights of population which are residing in scheduled area. Now they must be strengthened, their implementation must be transparent, and people must be accountable for the implementation of the same. Thus, effective implementation of protective legislation. You can also inculcate Atrocities Act against scheduled caste and scheduled tribe in this kind of legislation as well. Second is peace dialogue with Naxal group. We have witnessed that how government in past have proactively ensured that they are taking certain kind of countermeasures through different kind of bodies. However, peace dialogue is also necessary to ensure they understand the entire issue in a very empathetic way and thus go ahead with certain collaborative approaches. Third is revival and restructuring of cooperative society. We have witnessed that how cooperative society can help with respect to realization of democracy at grassroots level. We have certain successful models like Amul, etc., can be applied to certain regions like scheduled area where we definitely need to empower the local population. Fourth is land related measures. We have witnessed that there are certain kind of judicial cases which are related to land measures, but due to certain limitations, there is high pendency with respect to the same. Therefore, there is need to have fast track tribunals with respect to the land issues. Restoration of common property resources to ensure there is development in a very holistic and inclusive way. Third is participatory watershed development projects. Over here, we are just talking about different kind of social infrastructure. Water, definitely the access to water is also an issue that can also be catered. We have also seen how education has been tackled by Eclavio model schools. Apart from that, strengthening subsidiary and supportive activities. We are talking about capacity building of the local population, improvement in basic social services like health, education, and lastly, security measures with ensuring that further radicalization of the population is not done and also they do not live in a sense of fear. That is something you can write over here in the measures. In the conclusion, you have again the opportunity to talk about the second ARC report of capacity building. Over here, now you can refer multiple chapters as in chapter 3 on left extremism, chapter 11 on regional disparity, and chapter 12 on conflict in Northeast. You can take certain measures which are mentioned at the end of the chapter and inculcate same in the conclusion of this answer. Now this topic, linkages between development and spread of extremism, in past have seen lot of questions in mains specifically related to left-wing extremism, but apart from that you can also understand how insurgency in Northeast area, how other extremist ideas such as religious extremism can also be part and parcel of this narrative. So you can prepare your mains GS3 internal security, this topic in such fashion. So that is there for question number 2. Let us see the model answer and understand how can we inculcate the same in our answer writing practice. Firstly, in the introduction, you can talk about the correlation between underdevelopment and extremism. You can talk about different regions where we have witnessed certain degree of extremism. Then you can talk about the factors and you can list certain examples to support your arguments. Then you can list down different measures. Again, along with the measures, do mention the prerequisite acts that you can definitely inculcate in your answer so that whatever point you are mentioning, it's very well self-sufficient. And the last, you can talk about how going ahead, there must be convergence in political, economical, administrative and security approaches to ensure whatever government initiatives are there, they are successful in nature because of the inclusive fashion that we're working on. You can also talk about different states, example as in Andhra Pradesh model of dealing Naxalism, like it was a holistic model. We had Greyhound for counter-terrorism activities, counter activities of insurgency, as well as we have different state development activities. So mixing them and clubbing them both is the best way ahead. So that is there for question number 2. Let us see the question number 3, which is current affair based question. India's Gaganyaan mission soars to a new height as it brings dream of space exploration closer to reality. In light of the recent test of the crew escape system, highlight the significance and challenges involved in the Gaganyaan mission. So this question is about space. We have witnessed recent activity where we tested flight test vehicle abort mission TVD-1 recently, and that is part of Gaganyaan's project where we have certain milestones which we have already achieved. We have recently tested this and we have further test in place. Now, in the introduction of this question, you can briefly write about Gaganyaan. It's a 3 flight, 2 unmanned and 1 human space flight. At the end, the goal is to ensure we have human space flight with 3 astronauts. 1 would be female. It will be placed in low altitude of 300 to 400 kilometers for 5 to 7 days. This specific test was about crew escape system and making sure we are operationally ready. So this is something you can add in your introduction. In the body, you have to talk about the significance and challenges involved. So let us see the body aspect. The first is significance of Gaganyaan mission. The very first is scientific advancement. It reflects India's capability to tackle complex scientific exploration missions. We have already successfully done Mars orbiter mission. We also witnessed how Chandrayaan 3 was also a successful test. So all this thing reflects our nation's scientific advancement and definitely leads to national prestige. As we have seen in our fundamental duties, there is specific fundamental duty which talks about scientific temper. So such kind of successful mission definitely inculcates scientific temper in all the citizens of the nation. The third is employment opportunity. We have witnessed that how Gaganyaan has promised to employ more than 12,000 jobs. So that kind of promise will also help with respect to other social development related issues. We can also talk about technological spin-offs. We can talk about how certain kind of mission will help India with respect to other dimensions such as development of material, development of biotechnology, which we have also seen in how International Space Station have used the same. Then the last, you can talk about how it is significant with respect to global competitiveness. ISRO is right now competing with multiple nations which have developed space projects. With certain kind of this success of complex projects, ISRO can also compete with them with respect to satellite launches, etc. We can also talk about how India is the 4th country to have human space flight, and that itself is a huge achievement. So that is something in the body where you have to talk about significance. You can mention all these points. Now let us go and talk about the challenges in the next body. Over here, you can list down different points as in astronauts' health. We have talked about, we can talk about how extended space related travel can affect human body, and thus there should be proper research to ensure every aspect of the cause and effect is studied properly and our astronauts' health is safeguarded. We have witnessed in past that how different missions of the other nations have witnessed certain kind of challenges. We have seen how Columbia mission in which our Indian origin person Kalpana Chawla was part of, and that was a disaster. You can also talk about in the second is life support system. We have to ensure every aspect of the life support as in water, food, etc. is properly implemented and tested in advance so that when we have the final launches, we do not face any kind of challenge over there. The escape and rescue is also one of the factors that must be inculcated, and that kind of challenge must be tackled. We have seen that how Soyuz mission was able to cater escape of the crew because of their readiness. Now, the next point is technical complexity. As we are going to go ahead with human in space, further technical complexity can arise, and for the same, preparedness is the best way to go ahead. And the last is safety and redundancy. Over here again, we will talk about how the entire this mission must inculcate every aspect of safety to ensure there is no last minute challenge. So that is there in the body where you are talking about the challenges. Let's talk about the conclusion. Over here, you can talk about how robust environmental understanding for the safety of the human must be taken care. Next is ground and space testing in advance to ensure proper simulation of the Gaganyaan mission. Third is crew and mission training extensively to ensure they are able to adapt the mission's high rigorness. And last is ensure private sector involvement to inculcate higher degree of innovation. So that is there for question number 3. You can also talk about in the conclusion how all this will lead to success of Gaganyaan mission, which is timed in 2024. So that is there for question number 3. Let us see the model answer and understand how can we improve our answer writing. In the introduction, talk about the mission, talk about the recent test, which is flight test vehicle abort TVD1. You list down the significance, you list down all the elements and give certain examples to substantiate your arguments. Then in the challenges, again you list down all the points. The best way to is write the keyword, write 2 lines about the same, that is argument, and give a simple example to substantiate your argument. So this is the best way to go ahead to write your answer. And conclusion as in way ahead. So this is for question number 3. You are here for answer writing program where we are writing 5 days a week, where 2 questions are on static and 1 question on current affairs, where we will be covering the entire main syllabus of GS 1 to 4. You can see all the questions uploaded over here, and this video is on YouTube channel. You can go to vajiramis.com, go to mains Delhi section. You can also see how we have uploaded the schedule. Schedule for GS4, which is upcoming in the November month, is also uploaded. Do check it out. Go to the respective month, explore the questions. When the very specific question, you can upload your answer sheet. Your model answer will be displayed in the evening along with the YouTube video, so that you can have a holistic idea about how to go ahead with the specific question. So that's it for today's session. Keep writing. Thank you so much.